talk about this trek. I just will start with how this whole thing got started.
Sure.
Sanam Jangbu Sherpa and I wanted to do a collaboration because I had access to Western clients. He had all the logistical support as a high altitude guide. And we created international mountain trekking. The problem that we faced immediately is why would anybody sign up for an international mountain trekking course when they could do 1,000 other? But I was interested in mushrooms, and I'd always noticed when I went to the Khumbu, I would see mushrooms, but I was in a hurry to get to the top of these mountains.
No.
So I then got an idea that maybe I could find somebody in Nepal who could help me with this. And I Googled mushrooms, mycologist, Nepal.
Yeah.
I didn't get you. I got Sanjeev.
Yeah.
What was his last name again?
Sanjeev, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was very kind. He said, no, you don't want me. You want Shiva Devkota. I said, okay. And he gave me your email address. And I emailed you. And you responded pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it was clear to me that you and I would get along. I just sort of felt that we had a good spirit, which we did.
Yeah.
And then we just started planning what would be a great trip to the Khumbu with the idea that we would attract clients because we wanted to have people interested in the mycology of the region. And we had it all ready to go. I came here in 2019 with my daughter Carol, and Sanam and I and Carol trekked out to Gorgshap, and they went on to Everest Base Camp, which we knew, okay, this is a good idea. You and I met in Kathmandu. We talked about it. And then COVID.
Nah, not the COVID.
Yeah.
I mean...
What was your feeling about all this?
Oh, I mean... Look, still I could remember when we first met at friend's home, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, friend's home. And you were just sitting there with your laptop, I guess.
Yeah.
And then in this sense, I mean, I would really thank Sanjeev. Actually, we worked together like 16 months for Denida project because he was working in Pokhara at Institute of Forestry. And then I was in Pokhara. I was in Kathmandu, actually. I was in Kathmandu. And I was just to complete my graduation, master's degree on botany.
I see.
And there was one guy from Denmark, actually, Morten Christensen. Morten Christensen, he's mycologist. Famous mycologist in Denmark, working on Trichoderma species.
Okay.
And then they both approached me, and then we became friends. We worked together. But I was simply wondering that how did you get his name, not my name? Because there were so many publications on my name, but Google is Google. I mean,
Google sent me to Sanjeev.
Yes.
That's how it happens.
I mean, and later on I figured it out that why that happened, and then I realized that he got his own blog. Okay? He got his own blog. I mean, that's the marketing.
Look, I'm not as concerned as how it happened. The fact is it did happen. And
yes.
That's really
and then,
the important thing.
Yeah, I mean, later on it was interesting. I mean, you share your thoughts. I share my experience. Look, your thoughts and my experience, they just matched.
Right.
Matched, and matched, and also yatched,
Matched, yeah. Well,
so it is great.
Yeah. So anyway, we planned an itinerary. We combined your talents and Sanam's talents and my ability to try to communicate to the mushroom world that we had this thing going. I will tell you from my perspective, it was a huge amount of work because I had this idea, I had an itinerary, but I had 0 clients.
Yeah.
And I just started emailing everybody I could, every mushroom club, every department of mycology, all over the world, not just the United States, Canada, Mexico, France, Germany, China, Russia, everywhere. I was looking for clients. And finally, I started getting some. I mean, it was just a matter of throwing, something at the wall and hoping it would stick, and it did. The trouble was, of course, COVID, as I mentioned. Yeah. It just stopped everything. But we emerged from COVID I was able to get these two wonderful mycologists, Britt Bunyard and Juliana Furkey, to sign up, and that in turn gave us other clients. So, that's the origin story. The great thing that happened, I think, when I look back on this trek, is how exciting it was every single day. We started the day, people woke up, they had breakfast, and we didn't know exactly how the day would go, but every single day we had wonderful, exciting things, not only to see, but to discover. And I know you played a big part of that, so maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
I think it was already excited when we were back from Swayambhunath temple to our hotel, walking along with Alok, in those narrow streets.
Yeah.
And there, I think Thomas, he visualized on mushrooms. He noticed one mushroom growing on
in Kathmandu,
and he was just taking picture. And actually, that was, I think, Coprinus or Coprinellus.
I don't know.
So he was already excited, looking up for that mushrooms. And then after once we started our trip, and then I think the first mushrooms we observed is while we were just going by a jeep, and we were there for a short break, and there we saw like that one plant, that's a false cobra plant, and nearby there was like, I think Mycina species was just growing there, and they were taking pictures from different angle, like it was like you have seen Mount Everest for the first time. So that was exciting, and along the way, there were several species.
Yeah.
And then in each altitudinal gradients, and we have like different vegetation pattern, and when vegetation pattern changes, then we have different mushrooms. So it was exciting.
Look, I want to take you back to the comment you made about Swayambhu.
Yes.
We went up before the sun came up. We got everybody up by 4:15 in the morning, the day after they arrived in Kathmandu.
Yeah.
It was raining.
Yeah.
We got them all into our bus and over to the temple and started the hike up that nice long stairway to the top. I think it's important to spend a little moment talking about how that set a tone, in my opinion, for exploring new things for this group. They didn't know what was on the top of that temple. They'd never been there before, and we had a look to help put it in perspective for us. How did that feel to you to do that early in the morning?
That is good. They were also quite exciting when they were just going up and up in upstairs and in those stairs. And then like Gloria and Britt, I think they were super excited.
Yeah.
Of course, Ellen was also. And Britt was taking every small video clip. Yeah. How that money or other things just revolves around. And I think they were also enjoying monkeys just coming down from the top of that
from the
monument.
stupa.
Yes, I think it was good. It was really good. And Alex, he made so clear description. I never, though I was in Kathmandu like for 18 hours, I never tried to dig into the temple. I came to know several things.
I'll tell you, for me, what it did for me, and I think I can say that it did this for the rest of the clients, is it introduced to them that we weren't just going to be looking for mushrooms. We were going to be, if they were open to it, and I think they were open to it, that there would also be a deep spiritual message that would penetrate and permeate our work. Yeah. And I think that was a good way of setting the table for that. Yes. It opened them up that here they were, Westerners now in a South Asian country with a deep religious and spiritual tradition. Yeah. And I think if we had not done that, I don't think they would have been as tuned up, as sensitive to some of the other things that we experienced throughout the trek. Yeah. So I just wanted to just take a minute before we dug into the mushrooms to emphasize, I think, from from the totality of the experience and thinking about this trek, for me, processing all the different threads together, starting off at that time, having the opportunity to be there at the morning when the sun comes up, the quiet, there weren't crowds of people, a few people worshiping and praying. I just thought it was, for me, and I think other people came away from that experience. Then when we went, as Alok took us through the little streets and the tiny passages of what I'll call the traditional parts of Kathmandu, again, it brought to our people. We were not only in a physical place, we were in a spiritual place. Yes. And that's hard to, I think that's a tough thing to get people to grab onto, but I think we were successful. So I just wanted to stop for a second. But I think you're right, we started seeing mushrooms. We started seeing exotic plants like the cobra lily. Everybody was excited about that. We started finding mushrooms. And for me, it was a great sense that, well, maybe we're going to be successful, until you and I have both gone looking for mushrooms, and we find sometimes one or two or nothing. It can happen. Yeah. There's no guarantee you're going to find a mushroom on any given day of the week. That's for sure. So it was great that it started happening, and you could see people literally jumping out of the cars when they saw something along the side of the road. So what did you think about just getting into the Solukhumbu, and what we had to deal with? Like the landslide, the river crossing, how did you feel about all that?
I was simply looking, to our clients, how they will respond. Okay. Because this kind of floods and landslides and long waiting, they are common for us during this landslide, sure. During these rainy days. You were stuck in Mungling, look. And then I think before you left from Kathmandu, I asked you to buy some dry fruits and water and whatever, because this sort of things happens during this monsoon, and we are well adapted, or we are forced to be adapted.
Right.
Okay, so those all things are like common for me, but I was looking very closely how they will respond.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think they were calm. They were calm because I think they had seen that so many people are in a queue, and this is a natural process. You cannot overcome such situations.
Well, I wasn't calm.
Yes.
Yeah, I lost it.
You wasn't.
No, when those people were crowding into the scene and we couldn't get past, and they kept moving, and I finally said, I've had it, and I lost it. I'm not proud of the fact that I lost it, but I...
Yes, yeah, I have seen that.
I lost my points for getting bodhisattva status, I think, that day. Whatever. I'll have to make it up somehow.
Yeah, whatever. A little nervous is accepted.
Well, but I think I appreciate what you're saying is that before we got into those trucks, we brought plenty of water. Plenty of food, plenty of snacks, which also, look, from a crowd management situation, you want to keep people hydrated and fed. So we did.
That was very good decision that we went to Patpatini and
that was great.
Bought several stops.
That was great, yeah.
Including bucket of ice.
Oh yeah, that was good also. Beer. That was a big thing too. Having beer was good.
We were having beer in that one of the hill. I don't know the name of that hill.
But it was 10:30 in the morning. We were all cracking open beers.
And then I don't know that name of that hill with soil full of iron, there's a red hill. There we were having beer. On the side of history. It was like
It was great.
It was really great.
Look, I think keeping in the theme that I think we tuned everybody up to the spiritual aspects, I think we tuned everybody up to having fun.
Having fun, yeah.
Just having fun, and sometimes having fun is having a beer at 10 o'clock in the morning.
It was actually like, another part of a coin. In one part, they had spiritual feeling from there, and in the next part, having beer at 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's a great idea. I also want to talk about your work when we would meet people in the communities, and you initiated a conversation about the problems with mushroom poisoning. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, first of all, what are the issues here in Nepal regarding the tragic circumstances where people inadvertently eat the wrong mushroom and get quite sick and maybe die. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I mean, it's a very tragic event, mushroom poisoning. I mean, it is recurring every year.
Yeah.
And why it is recurring? I mean, recurring is normal thing, but the ratio of poisoning is going high and high every year.
Okay.
And I was looking for last 4 or 5 years seriously on these poisoning issues.
Yeah.
And what I have found is that most of the poisoning occurs in remote areas.
The remote areas.
Remote areas. And also among the poor families.
Yeah.
And also because of the children's.
Well, when you say because of the children, because they're the ones who are sent out into the woods.
Yeah.
So they're the ones bringing back the mushroom.
Bringing two things. I mean, one is they go to the forest and collect whatever they found.
Yeah.
And their parents 100% trust them. Another is when they return back from school, they used to collect mushrooms. Well, return back from schools to home in the evening, and they used to cook that mushroom for their father and mother.
Yeah.
You know, they used to be busy in farms or somewhere. Later on, when they return, the food seems to be ready, and they eat, and then the problem is that.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, we know that this arises because of food insecurity.
Yes.
I think if there was plenty of food, I don't think they would be interested in going. I mean, maybe some would, but I think most people would say, you know, if there was enough rice, if there was enough vegetables, I think they would, and eggs. But I know that you had the chance to actually talk to people and to hear what they were telling you, but I'm more interested in what you were telling them in terms of how to keep safe.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, along the way, we stopped in several places.
Yeah.
I mean, and we talked with children, even school children. We talk with elder people. We talk with hoteliers, small hoteliers, tea sellers. And they were everywhere. They were telling about such poisoning cases in last years.
Right.
I mean, they were just remembering the cases from the last year. And one simple thing, but important thing, what I was telling them is that not to eat any mushrooms which are not 100% sure for you to eat. I mean, they were collecting from time immemorial. We cannot say that don't eat mushrooms. But we need to tell that don't eat those mushrooms which you are not 100% sure, and don't depend on your children.
Right, but you were showing them photographs.
Yeah, somehow, but I didn't take much picture.
I see.
But I told them that do not 100% depends on your children. Second thing was just eat those mushrooms which you are really aware on that. And third thing is that don't mix so many mushrooms in one place. Yeah. Because there was a problem in many cases.
Also, I know that you were telling them that it's not safe to simply cook a mushroom thinking that that's going to make the mushroom not poisonous. That doesn't work.
Yeah, that I told them.
I know. I saw you doing that, which is great.
Yeah.
Also, maybe you can. Well, I can say that one of the projects I think you're working on now is to create an informative message that we can put on a child's book bag or backpack.
Yeah.
And you've been talking with people in America about financing that.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about why you think that's a good method for communicating to children.
Actually, this kind of initiation should be started from the government.
From the Nepali government.
Yeah, government or from the local bodies.
Yeah.
But, mushrooms, wild mushrooms and this kind of tragedies, they are always overlooked. And that is why I was trying to bring some relief for them from, just from the scratch, whatever I'm doing is just a scratch.
Yeah.
So actually, I started working on mushrooms since 2003, and during that time, it was for my study. And later on, like in these days, it is like my passion. I mean,
Sure.
Whenever I'm in Pokhara, and if someone asks me to come, here is poisoning issue, then I used to take my
Sure.
bike and then I used to go reach there, nearby
Yeah.
Pokhara. It is very common to me. So, I mean, what I saw in past days is that even if we could save one people, that is great.
Well, look, there's an expression: you save one life, you save a universe. So
Yes,
I think
you save a
understand
universe.
that.
Exactly. Thank you, Rick.
So look, I want to also now shift a little bit again and talk about just the physical aspects of the trek. How do you feel our clients did with altitude and with hiking for 6-7 hours a day?
I think it was good. I mean, some trails like from Panya to Surke, that was quite
that was a
difficult.
tough trip. That was a tough day.
Yeah, that was a tough trail. I mean, even it was somehow difficult for me in some places.
Sure.
And I thought that how they would manage, just walking on the slippery trail.
It was hard.
That was really hard for foreigners, I would say. I mean, but they could. I mean, but they did manage that.
Yeah.
And another thing is like sometimes what I realize is that like for Surke also, I think we were late because of mushrooms, but all our clients were not late to reach hotel.
I think there was a shift once we got to Surke and then to Phakding.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you felt the trek shifted once we got to those two locations?
I mean, in overall, not only in two locations, but in overall places. I mean, in the very beginning, I thought that, like our, resting points or in the evening, I think they are quite far. I was thinking like so because we were always walking for a long time, and but later on I realized that okay, in between we are also looking mushrooms.
Yeah.
So we need to spend some time looking for mushrooms, taking for pictures and other things.
Yeah.
Because if that is solely for the trekking purpose, of course, I mean we walked a lot.
Sure.
In a day.
Walk a lot.
Yeah. I mean. Because normally what I seen, being in Pokhara in a touristic city, that they used to just start walking like 5 or 6 hours and they just stay, Yeah, that was the practice. And then, but it was okay because we took several pictures in between and we had plenty of time so that, I mean, whoever interested, they can take pictures. Whoever interested in mushrooms, they can talk with.
No, I thought the timing of the trekking allowed for those clients, those scientists like yourself, with Britt and Thomas, to take the time that you needed to explore what was there to be seen, to document that, and not to feel unsafe. We always had a Sherpa guide with you who could make sure that you were going to be safe, which is, obviously very important. I really enjoyed going to see that new facility above Namche, Sagarmatha Next. Mm-hmm. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you've thought about that facility.
I think that is good concept because in last days or still in these days, I mean, there are several news regarding pollution problem in the Everest area.
Sure.
And I really admire the work done by SPCC, that is Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. That committee is awesome. Yeah. Really awesome. I mean, they are doing great jobs.
Yeah.
Since long time.
I didn't see any trash the entire time. I mean, maybe one or two candy wrappers, but nothing as any. So I think, I often hear in the United States, Everest Base Camp, a lot of pollution, but I really was seeing a really great, strong effort to move that trash out of the region and to dispose of it. And I thought that Sagarmatha Next was a really inspiring place. And I love like you said, the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee was doing a terrific job. So I think at that point, here we were now getting out of Namche, and the next step along our journey was to Tenboche.
Yeah, nearby Tengboche. What's the name of that place? Just below Tengboche.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Pangboche, right?
No, not Pangboche.
The other side.
Yeah, just nearby the Tengboche.
Well,
I don't know that place name. Anyway.
I forget. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had quite the experience at the monastery at Tenboche.
Tengboche, yeah.
And let me speak about it from my perspective, if I may. As you know, my father died while we were on this trek.
So sorry, yeah.
And that was really hard for me,
yeah.
And first of all, I really appreciate the love and concern that you showed me and Sanam showed me. But also, I was glad. I thought for a second maybe I would just keep this to myself, but I'm glad that I didn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it would have been harder for me to have done that. You take a risk when you open yourself up in a very personal way, but I felt that I could do that. I felt comfortable enough, and I think it was a good decision because I felt immediately supported, emotionally supported, and it was very helpful to me to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really helped me. When we got to Tenboche, it was pretty wonderful. We arrived during the afternoon prayer service.
Yeah.
The head lama was praying.
Yeah.
And I had the great opportunity of lighting 21 butter lamps in memory of my dad, all the while being surrounded by these ancient Sanskrit chants. Yeah. Really, I couldn't understand the meaning of the chants, but I felt the feeling communicated to me, which was great. And the beauty of that place was amazing. The sanctity of that place was amazing, and the spirituality of that place was extraordinary. So I really, not only did I feel supported, but I love the fact that our clients could feel, could be present in that moment to understand that. And again, harking back to, help me with the pronunciation, the temple, Shwembu. Yeah. Thank you. That those 2 points. Now we had 2 touch points that we could look to, and then we continued on down the trail, and we had this great hotel, Revendell. That was super great. After a long day, people to take showers. Yes. The food was great. The atmosphere was great. So I'm looking forward to going back there.
Yeah.
Anyway, at this point now, we're finding a lot of mushrooms.
Yes,
right? We're now starting to really find a lot of mushrooms
Yeah,
every time these guys are out there.
Yeah.
And maybe you can talk a little bit about how that felt to you as a mycologist.
Actually, I was like in 2011 to 2014, I was working in Sagarmatha National Park, but I never been beyond Tengboche.
Okay.
So it was like very interesting for me to look mushroom diversity and even lichens diversity above Tengboche.
Sure.
So I was also more interested to look for mushrooms.
Sure.
Of course. There we went a little bit into the deep forest. I was there, and then there was very nice Betula utilis forest. Betula utilis forest, Boars forest.
Can you hold on a second? Say that again.
Betula utilis. We called it as Bhojpatra. Bhojpatra in Nepali.
And tell me again, what kind of is that? A bolete, or is it a guild mushroom?
No. I'm talking about tree.
Oh, okay. See, I'm
forest,
not following. Okay.
Forest.
Okay. And what kind of mushrooms did we find?
And there we found at first we found some cantaloups.
Some.
You call it cantaloups,
right?
Yes.
Some chanterelles.
Chanterelles.
Yeah.
And we also found some Lacaria lacata.
Okay.
And there, first time we saw Ganoderma aplanatum.
Oh, that's interesting. That's on a
birds or
on a hemlock or something like that.
Yeah, on a stump. And their breed taught me that how to identify Ganoderma, and also how to identify aplanatum specifically.
See, I thought that was a North American species. But it's here as well?
Yes, eplanetrum is very common in Nepal.
I see. Okay, yeah. And that's a very famous Chinese medicinal mushroom.
No, Chinese medicinal mushroom is Ganoderma lucidium.
Yeah, but I thought
Eplanetrum
also had medicinal properties.
Could be. Yeah.
In the United States, it is. I mean, we use that all the time for the same reason. Same thing as we call it. You call it a reishi mushroom or a lingzao. How do you say?
Lingzi is the Chinese name.
Yeah.
Chinese name, and for that we call Ganoderma lucidium, not Eplanetrum here.
Yeah. I don't know whether there is a big difference between those two mushrooms medicinally.
Yes.
You think there is?
Yeah, there is difference.
Okay.
I mean, Chinese traders, they only buy Ganoderma lucidium from Nepal.
I see. Well, then maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
And the color is absolutely different.
I see. Yeah.
So, and there we have also found some Paniolus species, some Marasmus species, and some interesting bullets.
Yeah.
So, it was very interesting.
What was the name of the mushroom you and I found on the way up to Namche?
Oh, that is on kind of...
That was a bolete.
There was like Tricoloma therium. We found
I don't remember.
You don't remember, okay.
Yeah.
We found Tricoloma therium on the way. That was very fancy mushroom.
Yeah.
And we also found like Clitocybe infundibulum or somehow mushroom.
But these were all boletes.
No, Clitocybe.
No, the ones I used to make the pizza were all boletes.
That is another story. Okay, that is Suillus siberius. Suillus siberius.
All right. And so when we got to Namche, I knocked on the door of the kitchen and said, Ricky Bumbo's here to make pizza. And he was very kind to me and supplied me with onions and garlic and some spices and a big, huge wok.
Yeah.
And I sliced up the mushrooms and the garlic, and we made really wonderful pizzas for everybody. That was a lot of fun.
I think you missed 2 events.
Say that again?
You missed 2 events.
What was that?
One is that, one lady was telling me that take care of your clients.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was funny. That was funny. Well, she thought you were going to poison me.
Yes,
Well, look, I think the incident with that woman helps to illustrate the fact that even what we would call indigenous folk knowledge of botanicals or fungi doesn't necessarily track with science.
No.
And that those ideas can persist for hundreds of years and be wildly inaccurate.
Yes.
Look, it's there's a lot of truth to folk medicine, and there's a lot of, mythology that doesn't turn out to be true.
Actually.
But anyway, I thought it was great fun to make pizzas for everybody, and they turned out great.
Yes. So, it was great. One thing related with Suillus siberius is that, while I was working in Mustang, and there we used to eat these mushrooms.
Yeah.
And the people used to eat this mushroom.
Yeah.
But for same mushrooms, people in Everest, they think that this is
it just shows
poisonous.
You.
Yeah.
So anyway, after we kind of kept going after Temboche, and we got up to Lobuche.
Yes.
And
Dengboche. From Riverdale Hotel, we reached to Dingboche,
right. And then, that was great. We did
spent
that
2 nights there.
Yeah, we did that great acclimatization day. All our clients did really well.
Yeah.
And then on to
Lobuche Pyramid.
And the pyramid. Yeah, that was special. Yeah, staying at that place. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to see inside the research facility, but it was still a cool location. I'm glad we stayed there. I love that lodge.
Yeah, I had 2 kind of feelings. One kind of feeling is okay, now I am here in pyramids. And second, I was also I feel a kind of pity that we cannot use such pyramids, in a proper way.
Well, look.
Before reaching out to Everest, I looked somehow about what is the pyramid is and how it was built and why Italians were ready to make that pyramid and why they did collaboration with Nepal Academy of Science and Technology, and they made lots of expenses to build up that structure in that altitude, And in early days, they used to have some research, and they have a kind of systems. They could even track data being in Kathmandu. But later on, there were a kind of, problem, and then they stopped working from there.
Yeah, look, funding is always an issue, for science.
Yeah, well, funding is always an issue. I think the problem there is management. It's a pity.
Look, I don't really want to spend a lot of time with I don't know much about.
Yeah, I'm just sharing. We were in a nice structure, and
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a cool area. I thought the building is cool.
Yeah,
and everybody was happy to be there. And now we're really moving up into what famous photographer Galen Roll used the term the throne room of the mountain gods.
Throne?
The throne room, like where the king sits.
Okay, throne rooms.
The throne room, like where the king sits. You're surrounded now by these mountain deities. Nupse.
Nupse, okay.
Pamori, right?
Chomalunga.
Yeah.
Chomalunga.
Yeah, right. Amazing to be able to walk and look up and see all that stuff. I think it's really extraordinary.
Yeah.
And to look down and see the Khumbu Glacier.
Yes.
Carving out that huge valley below us.
Yes.
And we saw a very unusual, very high altitude mushroom. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, that was interesting. Once we moved from our hotel, from that pyramid hotel, we climbed up.
Right.
And we got a very flat lane. And
onto Pamori Bench.
Yeah, Pamori Bench. And we took several pictures and video.
Right.
And when we were just walking along that skinny trail, that Brit was telling skinny trail,
Yeah, it's fine.
And there we got mushrooms. That is very interesting. That is interesting mushroom. I need to check if there were reports on some alpine mushrooms.
Well, you'll have to figure that out.
Yeah, we need to check, because in early days there used to have so many expeditions in the mountains for plants, not for mushrooms, plants. And the plant scientists, they used to collect everything.
Yeah.
And that is actually a lycopodon species, but we guess the genus or species could be
that's what
different.
Did you take a biological sample of that mushroom?
Yeah, because I have taken sample of that mushroom, because I have a permit for next 3 years.
Thank God.
And then so that I have taken few mushrooms for further analysis.
Okay. After we got to Everest Base Camp, we started heading back, and we hiked all the way down to Farache, where we had a beautiful hotel.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we had a long hike, but it was a beautiful day, to the last village, Fortse.
Mm-hmm.
And there we had a wonderful experience, because we arrived exactly at the same time that the holiday of Dumji was being celebrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you that from my perspective, I was really moved again. I would say that another spiritual touch point for the trek was now back at the end. So we started at the beginning, we had something in the middle, and now we had something at the end. So it was a great, all these wonderful spiritual opportunities for our clients and for ourselves. Again, I felt extraordinarily welcomed, involved, and moved.
Yes.
And that was really special for me. How did you feel about that?
Actually, I'm not sure, but I heard Tom Dumzi, I think from you.
Okay.
So I was not aware about Dumzi Festival before you were making this all itinerary,
Sure.
And then I was also wondering actually how Dumzi will look like.
Sure.
But I think we were on time, right? That main character
we were right on time.
Main character was just started to.
You're on time if you get there before the end. Okay, so we were right on time.
Yeah, anyway. Look, that dance, Dumzi
It's
dance.
great.
That was great dance.
And then after that, we had the opportunity of being celebrated in Sanam's mother's home.
Yes.
With a wonderful meal, with plenty of chang.
Wedding ceremony.
And yes, we had the chance to see Sanam and his lovely new wife, Pushpa, go through the ceremony of being welcomed into the mother's home. That was really special. And then the next day we got ready to go. And
Yes.
right at the end, Tenzing found a beautiful mushroom. Can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. I mean, actually, that is Lexinium auranticum.
It was a bolete.
Yeah.
It was a big, beautiful, edible bolete.
Yeah, that's actually we found that mushrooms at the very beginning while we were crossing Khumjung.
I didn't know that.
And then later on, you found that.
Yeah.
See, you found that. I mean,
That's great.
that is very good
That's
and
great.
edible mushroom.
And then all the helicopters came and off we
Okay,
went.
Yeah,
Back to
turn by
Kathmandu.
turn, turn by turn,
So,
turn by turn. Yeah.
Look, I thought it was a really great trek, and I'm very thankful to you for all
Mm-hmm.
of your expertise, to Sanam, and of course to Alok for his not only making this beautiful documentary, but also his team, Dusty.
Yeah.
It's a great asset. So anyway, I think we did a great job.
Yeah, Rick. I mean, it was quite good
Yeah, it was
experience
great. It was
for
great.
me as well. I
It's
mean,
great.
because it was not like I used to do lots of expeditions, but it was not like those. I mean,
Yeah.
it is totally different. It is
Yeah.
not. It was not like 100% science.
Sure.
And our clients were from different backgrounds, you know. And I mean, we were in a free mind to
Yeah.
explore.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was good. And also another good thing I want to aid in this talking is that, like, for Kevin, he was interested to know about anthropology, and I did describe whatever I know.
Yeah.
And Brett, he was curious to know about the mycological exploration in Nepal and
Sure.
other aspects. So it was good.
It was great.
And Thomas is my dear friend. I mean,
Yeah.
he's always
Yeah, it's
cool. So,
Okay.
and all our clients, they were really nice.
Yeah, our clients were terrific.
I mean, they were terrific.
Yeah.
I mean,
So one more thing, Shiva, as you know, we're planning treks for next year
yes.
into the Annapurna region, also into the Khumbu again, 2 times.
Yeah.
And I think that this will be a wonderful opportunity again to expose people to a part of Nepal that they don't ordinarily see, and to be trekking in a way that is unusual.
Yeah.
Instead of always looking up
Yeah.
at the mountains and the glaciers, people will be looking down
Yeah.
to see what's in the forests. And I'm really excited about next year and for many years to come.
Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting that we have added like Annapurna circuit.
Yeah, yeah,
I was there in 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
And then I did Throngla Pass and all these circuits. I know there's some places where we could find mushrooms, so we'll build
I'm
up
sure.
our itinerary according to that. And I mean, clients will have different, feelings being in Everest and in Annapurna. So I mean,
it's all good.
they are free to choose. Free to
it's
choose.
all beautiful.
Yeah, wherever
Yeah.
they want.
Sure.
I mean, we have given 2 options, and they are brilliant options.
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I think we're probably done here. This was a great conversation.
Actually, this is a
You
great
had more?
conversation. That was a great field trip, and yesterday was great press meet.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, now you are superhero. You.
I'm still the same guy. All right. Thank you, Shiva.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick.
Okay.
So nice of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.